on the Reef Future to 2024, and we're quite eager to experiment and to prototype certain Web3 tools with researchers and initiatives in coral reef conservation and in biological conservation in the Mesoamerican reef system. As part of Mesoreef DAO, we really would love to thank Gitcoin and RSI for all the support. And this round is run in Arbitrum blockchain. So we have our special guest here, is Kike. Kike has a long line of legacy in the island. Yeah, nice to meet you, Kike. Kike you're a geographer, isn't it, or a geologist? A geologist, and you have been quite specialized in the karst systems, isn't it?
Exactly. Yes.
That's awesome, man. And you're right now, you're running Jovenes MaB, this initiative that is quite doing many things in conservation as a whole, but you're particularly focusing in coral reef ecosystems. So I would love to learn, your audience would love to learn more about your initiative. So the stage is yours, man. Proceed.
Thank you so much for your presentation. As you told, I'm Enrique. I was born and raised here in Cozumel Island. And now we are running this project called Jovenes MaB, which is an organized group. We're trying to become an ONG in a couple of years, but we're working in restoration efforts all over the island. You name some, like reef restoration. We're also part of the local committee to protect sea turtle, loggerhead, and also the green turtle. And we have people all over the place doing their own work, and people who work full-time doing restoration activities, and people who also are working like in green energy or in other sectors that overall have these like sustainable goals. Okay, so right now I'm going to talk to you about Cozumel being a biosphere reserve by UNESCO. Because not a lot of people know that Cozumel is a biosphere reserve. I'm seeing with locals and I'm seeing with tourists. And we need to talk about the importance and the responsibility that becomes with living in a biosphere reserve and what we have to do to protect our ecosystem. So just we all can understand what is Cozumel. Cozumel is a big island, is the biggest island of the Mexican Caribbean, and is the island with the most population. That it has around 80,000 people living in the island. Okay, Cozumel has a lot of ecosystem. I never get tired of saying this, but Cozumel is an entire ecosystem, and it's a connection between a lot of ecosystems. You can see from low to medium jungle. Then you can see Taxistal, which is a unique ecosystem from the region. You can see coastal dune vegetation. You also can see a lot of mangroves, which make wetlands here in Cozumel. And we have a lot of biodiversity, migratory birds and local birds, a lot of endemic mammals, and a lot of reptiles. And as you told, Cozumel is part of the Mesoamerican reef system. The whole island is made out of corals, and Cozumel lies on top of this huge barrier. This is the second longest reef barrier in the world. So this is a unique ecosystem, and it's very important for the marine conservation overall. And Cozumel is home of over 1,000 marine species, and the island by itself depends economically in tourism. Okay, 95% of all the economical movement comes from tourists. So this is really important because we are talking about a biosphere reserve who has a huge population living inside of the biosphere reserve, and it's a population that lives on tourism. Okay, so we live on our ecosystems. Cozumel has a long tradition of being preserved. Cozumel has 7 natural protected areas all over the island. You can see here we have one in the north. We have one in the south, that is the National Marine Park, which protects the most important reef that we have in the island. We are talking about 5,000 to 10,000-year-old corals here in the south. Also, there's the Parque Punta Sur, which is a national park. And we have different type of natural protected areas. We have state and we have federal protected areas, like national parks and like state parks, okay? And on top of that, we have some local efforts to preserve some sites. So this is more like local governmental scheme, you know? So Cozumel is protected, although we need to improve the way that we talk to people about what this means, you know? So I always ask this question to our locals: why Cozumel should be a biosphere reserve, in your own words? And I try to explain them that we have a lot of endemic species here in Cozumel. We have 30 plus endemic species, from mammals, which is really rare to have endemic mammals. Birds, endemic birds is super weird because these can fly all over the place. And we have one endemic species of hummingbird, which is the emerald hummingbird, which is a tiny, tiny bird that only live here in the island. And we also have endemic reptiles and a lot of cave species that only live in underground caves. So this is a unique environment. We're talking, you can compare Cozumel to a small Galapagos island, for example. And also we have a wide variety of ecosystems, as I'll tell you later. I say sooner. We have from the jungle to the reef, they are all connected, and that's the importance of Cozumel. They are all connected through water. Okay, so when it rains, the jungle is the one responsible of recharging the water to underground sources. Okay, so the jungle transforms the water from the rain into underground water, and this water will flow all the way to wetlands and all the way to the reef. So the quality of the water in the reef starts in the jungle. So there's a really good connection between the jungle and the reef, and we need to talk more about this connection because we are losing this connection. People don't think that the jungle is connected to the reef, and they're actually throwing trash and oils and waste in their own backyard, not knowing that this will filter and get to the ocean. So this is one thing that I'm working on and becoming more aware about this problem. But on top of that, like all the diversity and all the ecosystem, Cozumel also has a very important cultural heritage. We have 3 main Mayan cities in different times. We have El Ramonal, which is the oldest, San Gervasio, which is the biggest Mayan city, and also El Cedral, which is one of the latest Mayan cities here in Cozumel. So we're talking about 3 different times when Mayans decide to live here in Cozumel, and they explore the island, and they build these archaeoastronomical buildings. You can see, if you see a Mayan building with a round base, that means that this was made to observe the moon and the stars and the sun. Okay, this is an astronomical observatory. And also we have buildings like the one in Punta Sur, which is aligned with the sun, and you can see the sunset or the sunrise 2 times of the year, okay? Because the sun's perfectly aligned with this castle, and you can see the light coming through the building. So this is truly important. And Cozumel knows that, and it's part of the roots of the people that live here, and they decide to make these cultural activities and sustainable tourism. That's why they name us a biosphere reserve, because they saw that there's a connection between the cultural part and the biological part, okay? So people do this sacred journey of Goddess Ixchel every year. This is a way to give tribute to our old traditions and also to spread all this knowledge, previous knowledge that we had of the Mayan civilization. And also we have a lot of different sustainable tourism options, like the Cozumel Bird Festival. This happens every year, sorry. And we attract people from all over the place who love to photograph birds or just watching birds. But you can, if you come here to Cozumel, you can find a lot of activities that can be sustainable. And we are, as a young group, we are part of the environmental education culture here in Cozumel. And now we are specifically working on fostering environmental culture through education. So we do a lot of these activities through the entire year. We're trying to impact our young generation so they know the importance of this place and they can take actions when the time comes, you know? So I think this is crucial to understand Cozumel, but also to love Cozumel and protect it. So that's our main goal, to connect people with their own culture, with their own land, make a sense of, how can I say it? Like, make a sense of this is mine, this is my culture, this is my site.
Identity.
Exactly. Identity, exactly. And then they can build up this sense and make actions to protect Cozumel. So the overall purpose of the reserve is connecting the Cozumel community and visitors with the biological and cultural heritage in order to build a sustainable future for the island. That's our main goal too as a young group when we form this group. So these are our main values. There's a lot of values and you can have different interpretations of this, but we are very positive. We think that celebrating life and paying tribute to the joy of living is important, so people can do want to do something for the planet. You know, if we are talking about this is bad, we are losing the crops. If we're talking about all these problems that they are real and we need to address them, but if we talk about that all the time, we can lose the energy, and we need this energy to work for the ecosystems. You know. Also, we need to work in groups. We need to work together as a team. You know, I've seen that here in Cozumel that there's people working all over the place, but we are not connected yet. Like let's say, hey, I help you, then you help me, and we can work all together. We are working on that, and now we are forming committees to make the actions bigger and work together. So that's a huge value that I share with my colleagues. Innovation is really important, new solutions to modern problems. That's when Ro comes to the picture here, because Ro has a lot of new ideas to get funding, also to work things out. So this is why I appreciate Ro, because he has a future mindset. And participation is super important. We need to involve local communities into protection and restoration activities. Without participation, without getting people involved, you're losing all efforts. The efforts are going to last 1 year, 2 years, and then we're going to lose the energy, we're going to lose the effort because people are not engaging with the restoration programs. So this is a picture of some of us. We are around 30 young guys from 18 to 35-year-old. Most of us, we have a long history of being working in environmental education and also conservation activities. But we finally unite in 2023. Around 2022, in the beginning of 2023, we started working together. And in June, we say, okay, let's make a group, because we had a lot of ideas, but we're working all over the place. So let's unite and let's make a group and let's focus on some goals. And in October 2022, we finally signed our letter of like, now we are a group. The National Marine Park and the National Protected Areas Committee signed our letter, and they accept us as a organized group, professional group. All these kids are college students, or some of them are undergrad students, so they all have also a science background, so they can help us collecting information or making strategies in the area. And now, today, we are part of the youth network in Iberoamerica. So we are part of a huge net of biosphere reserve all over Latin America and Spain and Portugal, which are working to preserve these really important sites. Okay, so that's one huge goal that we did last year, and maybe this year we're gonna participate in a congress with them. I don't know if it's gonna be here in Cozumel or in Brazil, but we're working on that. And this is just like a timeline where you can see like how the group evolved. Like first, My friend Christina, which also is the secretary, used to be the president last year. She went to Martinique to a forum of the Biosphere Reserve of the Caribbean. We are part also of that group. Then we decided to form the group in 2023. Then right away we worked on the management manual for the Biosphere Reserve and the image of the Biosphere Reserve, because we were lacking of an image, something that people can identify as a Biosphere Reserve here in Cozumel. So we went straight working on this with a whole team that built an identity of Cozumel, and now we have our own brand. So this is part of the things we did in 2023. And in 2024, we did a lot of environmental education campaigns and forums, and we were all over the place talking about people, the importance of protecting this area and different schemes of protection. So trying to get more people involved in the project, you can say. These are some of the active actions that we did from over the years. Sometimes we do critical cartography with the students, so they get more aware about the place where they live. And we are running surveys and with our participants to know how they feel with the activity, to know how to improve our activities. And also we are measuring how much they will be aware of the importance of the place, or how much information they gain from one activity. So this is very important for us. And by last, now our young group is part of the technical committee. So that means that we are not just a group that is working and it's all fun. We are also part of the decision-making team of the Biosphere Reserve. We work in shoulder by shoulder with the local government, with the federal government, and with the state government to make sure that we make the best decisions possible for the island. So our voice is heard, and we now have the responsibility of being listened, like speak out for all the young generation for Cozumel. Okay, so this is very important for us. And that's it. If you have any question, please don't mind asking. If you want to join us, if you want to join the wave, please scan this QR code and you will get straight to our WhatsApp group. But also you can join on Instagram and Facebook. We're all over the social media working this year on communication. So please give us a share, give us a like. You can see a lot of content there, and you can see what we're doing here in Cozumel. So thank you so much, Rob. And this is all for me. And if you have any question, please, I'm up to.
Hey, what's up, man? You can leave that. You can leave the presentation there during the question session, and I find it quite cool. You know, all the things that you have been done, because a part of the initiative is quite early. I just remembered a couple of years ago, many people in the community of Cozumel just say, "Okay, we're a MaB. We're part of the MaB community. You know, of the MaB network worldwide." So by the UNESCO. So how can we leverage this? We need to create a group, you know, and this group needs to be quite built by the youth generation, you know, and that's why, you know, Jóvenes por la Conservación, you know, there were many groups in Cozumel, but usually politics happens, you know, politics usually plays a really huge role in the whole ecosystem itself of conservation in many island nations. So I believe that the COVID situation just accelerate that, you know, at various levels, you know, in terms of there was a lot of increase in vulnerability about conservation, you know, the temporary ecosystem recovery, you know, was pretty cool to see, you know, many megafauna, for example, in coral reefs, you know, there was a shift in the community-led conservation, you know, a bottom-up effect is quite necessary, you know, to start achieving things, you know, and there's a new reframing biodiversity, you know, as a public health infra. So I believe that is quite good to see, you know, how these groups essentially bloom over time. And it's quite awesome, man. And apart all the context, all the information that you share in your slides, I'm really grateful for that. Can you give me just a basic overview of the project itself and the main objectives? I believe that you are quite focusing in awareness, but many of the members are quite supporting many strategies. I believe that that's really good, for your initiative, because Jóvenes MaB is more like a community lead initiative that is supporting many causes in the island. So what is your main focus right now? And why do you think that is important? I believe that in a tiny sentence, because you share all that information in the slides, but I really would love to know
Yes.
in a tiny sentence.
Yeah. We just want to, maybe it's very philosophical, but we want to change the spirit of the young generation. And you can translate that in actions like environmental education, because that's our main goal right now. I think this is crucial to start young, to understand the problems of the island, but also to start thinking about solutions, and these
Agreed.
young kids that are fresh have most of them have the answer. So we need to hear them. We need to give them the space so they can explore their own island and love the island, and then they can start making solutions. That happens with a lot of us when we were growing up, and now as you
Agreed.
know, we need to step up now, because we know this is good and this is doing a lot of good for the island, but we need to step up and scale it to an international level. So that's our goal right now. As you said, there's a lot of young guys that are working in different places. Like we have people working in reef restoration, like Adrian, which is working in Sandola. Also, people who's working on sustainability, like Cristina. Also, Andres, which is working in Corales Vivos. So we're a network. We know that they are full-time working there, and sometimes they cannot work with us. But if we need something for them, like for example, let's say a class about coral biology, ecology, I know I can call Andres and he's gonna help me. He helped me with the cartography workshop that we did in the local university from here. So I mean, we have people all over the place, and we all the cool thing of this generation is that we all have the same mindset of working together. Like there's no reason why not should be working together if we're doing the same type of stuff. So that's the cool thing about Jóvenes MaB, that we are slowly taking all the space that as we possibly can reach, and we need to understand that the things that have been done in the past, some of them are really good, and some of them we have to take the good and continue the job. But also there are some good that they are not working, and we have to change that. And that's when our focus and our voice comes in action. Like, okay, why we don't change this to this? If it's not working, we should change this. So I think it's important to hear the voice of the young generation, because sometimes they have something to add to the whole management of a really important place. And yes,
and it's the future. Essentially, it's the future.
Yeah.
It's the children of tomorrow. There will be citizens, and we need to be quite aware about that. And we need to open the perspective of conservation. Just said something about the forms of capital, and I believe that that's quite essential to have in conservation itself, because there's a lot of. I believe that MaB is trying to achieve all the forms of capital in conservation actions, social capital, relationships, network, trust, community connections. Intellectual capital is basically knowledge, ideas, innovation, intellectual property, for example. Spiritual capital, all the values, the ethics, the purpose itself. Cultural capital, it could be more like all the traditions, the heritage. It's that heritage legacy that we have in Cozumel. The material capital, all the physical objects that are in us, apart all the nature, all the infra that we have. The financial capital is quite necessary. We know that the financial capital is the key at many levels to many conservation programs to operate, but the living capital is the essential one. All the natural systems, the resources that we have, the soil, the water, the plants, the animals, the ecosystems itself. And you said about the interconnectivity that there between ecosystems. That is essential to conserve in the island itself. So how can we scale that message to all the stakeholders in the island? I believe that is necessary. There are many groups that are working on that since decades, and I believe with a new wave of youth is necessary. The experiential capital is a thing that we need to explore in conservation. All the skills, the lived experience, the intuition, the personal growth of all the individuals involved in the actions. So you actually said about the most rewarding aspects during your whole presentation. I will skip that one, but I would love to learn or to see what is your perspective. How does Jóvenes MaB Cozumel align with the broader goals of the Web3 community? About all the values, about contributing to the ecosystem on the long term. What is the thing that you would love to experiment? A part of the capital, a part of all that, because it's a new tool. We could use this tool to accelerate many things and to avoid many bottleneck effects that we have seen in conservation.
Exactly. Yeah, well, I love this community because you can donate and it's really transparent. It goes straight to the cause you want to donate to, and you can see how they use the money. And I mean that I love that because we are entered into this biosphere reserve scheme because that was the way that we can download some funding so we can do our work. But we are not married with any ONG or any governmental organization. So we're trying to see different ways of gaining funding and different ways to share our message. So I think Web3 community is a really good option for doing that. It's also something very new and very fresh that people from older generation doesn't know about it. So we need to step up and say, okay, we have something good here. People from all over the world can contribute to a cause, and we can make a change, actual change in our ecosystem, because it's really hard to take off. It's been really hard for us to take off, to gain first knowledge of all the community, then respect, then they trust in us and they will share some of the national funding to us, and that's our major struggle, to get funding and to pay all these incredible people that are donating the time, and because we need to I want for the future, that's my goal for the future, to become an ONG, and that we can be able to pay people to do what they love and to protect the island. So I think this is a very good option for doing that, and I hope that this adds to the mix, and we can somehow reach all the people who want also to make a difference, and they can become part of us. You can live in other planet, but you know that you're contributing to a cause in an island of the Caribbean, and you're doing your part by donating. It's incredible. I was making like crazy math when I was taking a shower in the morning, and I was like, maybe only 1% of all the people in the world will dive once in their lifetime. Maybe half of them will see a reef. If these half of 1% people donated $1, we will have enough money to restore our ecosystems. But it's just like there's no chance to do that. So we need to move things around and see how we connect with these people who would love to preserve these incredible ecosystems.
And in terms of coordination, I believe that beyond that, about the funding of all that, is about coordination. How can we reach proper coordination with individuals that, because for example, I usually struggle because conservation doesn't have a model
Exactly.
of revenue or revenue, and many investors
Yeah.
right now with our initiative, we're looking for a seed, and for a series probably in the future, but they're looking for the model that we have, and they say to us, okay, but you're doing the same. No, because this I just start explaining
Yeah.
the difference, and they say, okay, it's quite different, but you need to onboard people with the proper message, and I believe that is an iterative action,
Yeah.
because conservation has a reputation to have a really extractive practices. You have grants, and essentially you don't develop a product, you spend all the grant, and then you need to spend time in writing another grant, in applying for other windows, so it's quite bad, because I believe that many NGOs usually have that model that they create products, they create many things, but imagine if we could create tokenization of certain assets, but in a genuine way, assets as membership, imagine to create a token with the members of MaB Cozumel, and essentially this could leverage the power in terms of governance, in terms of various levels. I think that this message could be replicated in many initiatives, and it's like a tiny meta structure. You could create your own, Mesoreef DAO is like an entity, but particularly for researchers and in conservation actions, of coral reefs. But essentially, you could start your own movement with the same prototype, or you could be at the same time part of our movement, because you're in this talk, and this talk is an NFT, it's a token gated mechanism that you could use in the future for governance, and to create proposals and all that. So I think that we need to experiment in that, and it's necessary to create a new levels of structures in terms of not necessarily governments, but in decision making. Imagine if we could scale this, but with people that are taking care of the island, for example, or are taking care about certain things. I believe that is the ultimate goal. But we need to focus in our trenches, marine conservation for now, and to start spreading the word of what we're doing, as part of MaB Cozumel, as part of Mesoreef DAO, as part, because we need to. That's why I'm quite aligned with the coalition of coral Cozumel Coral Conservatory. You're quite aware of that. You're quite involved too. So I believe that it's quite good to follow this path. How can we create a thriving future to mitigate coral reef crisis and the loss of biodiversity? It's quite necessary. And we have the mission to do that, And what are the main challenges? I really want to share, or I want to hear, what are your main challenges right now in MaB Cozumel, or you as a being in conservation?
Yes, I just said, like, I think two main challenges are getting funding, because you have to be part of the whole scheme, and also doing restoration activities is really hard here in Mexico, because you need a lot of permits, you need a lot of permits from the local government, from the state government. You actually need a signed paper that give you permit to move, and like, I think that's a good thing, because we don't want anyone just to be moving corals in the ocean like that. But it's really hard to get the permits. It's really hard to get access to the sites that need to be restored. It's really hard to also get people involved. These younger generations are really hard to click in. And actually, actually in the beginning we had some sort of membership. When people pay 100 pesos, that's like $5 every month. But at the end, the people that were more involved in our group were the people that were working more. So they actually were paying $5 to work for us, and say that, no. And so at the long run, it was not sustainable, because these people were like, I'm paying you and I'm also doing the work, But these are the people who get involved at the beginning, and we haven't lost that community. So I mean, that's just an example. If we can have people that also are interested in this, and they can pay a membership to see what we're doing here in Cozumel. And someday, I always tell people this because here in Cozumel we have a lot of tourists. 4 million tourists all year round. It's like 50 times more the population that live here in the island. So I say that to the people that comes here. It's not about not doing things. It's not about not going into the reef. It's not about not touching a natural protected area. It's about how we do things. We can still doing these things and enjoy our nature and enjoy our planet. We have to do it in a responsible way, in a way that not impacting the nature, or we are impacting as less possible as we can do. And these sustainable tours, that's where they come to action, because you can pay for do a scuba, like with Germán, the Cozumel Coral Reef Restoration Program. Shout out to Germán. You can pay to get certified as a scuba diver. You can help with coral restoration activities, and you also, part of your certification goes to help a ONG that is working to restoring the coral. So I mean, it's a win-win for everyone. You get to understand more about the island. You get to do a unique thing that is scuba diving, and also you're helping the ecosystem. So there's a lot of ways, a lot of examples that we can do here in Cozumel, but we are fighting to enter into that scheme, and to change the mindset of how we do things and how we could be doing things to make the island more sustainable in the long run.
Yeah, it's necessary, the same the things that you said, because, for example, I believe that in many conservation programs, or in many conservation communities or initiatives, programs, like I said, we lack of incentives. That's why many people usually come and go, because okay, I would love to do this, but I have a family, I need to work because this, and this, and I could do this, or I could support you on Sundays, or I could support you these certain days a day, So it would be quite cool to create proper incentives with the individuals that are quite involved, but in a regenerative way. How can we create regenerative systems that could close the loop of all these process of conservation? So after that, I believe that it's really awesome to see many groups like the one that you're forming, man. And I really appreciate that, because the younger generations are the ones that will suffer, for all these kind of things that are coming, and we need to be quite optimistic and realistic. How can we mitigate all these crises of water, biodiversity, about all these management, that is doing in really small places like Cozumel. So I believe that that's all for me. I don't know if you want to say something regarding the conclusions, or what are your thoughts regarding your experience. Many people say that we don't need to have expectations, because many people say that, okay, people will send us a lot of money, thousands of dollars. But I believe that it will be quite cool to see how it evolves, this experiment, to see how can we scale this experiment, and you're now part of the using the ledger, using blockchain itself to create traceability, because we need to remember that blockchain is like a book of accountability. So essentially everything that you create here, for example, this token is in your wallet, for example, of this talk. So I believe that we need to play and to create new economies with this to support conservation actions. I believe that that is the part of the mission. And imagine if we could do this for science itself, because every conservation effort has some science behind it. And we need to support that framework too, to leverage and scale more the actions that we're doing. Usually that is necessary in many low mid-income countries, like an island nations, or like islands like Cozumel. So it's awesome to have you here, man. But we need to leave. I don't know if we want to add something, as I said before, but after that, we would love to thank Gitcoin, RSI,
thank you so much
and
for
all
your
the
time.
people involved. Sure.
Thank you so much for your time. I hope you like this chat. I hope people that see this chat can join somehow. Give us a share, give us a like, and we need to expand this so people can hear about Cozumel and understand that we are, as you said, we have to be realistic. We're losing a jewel, the Caribbean, but we have to be optimistic about the solutions. There's ways that we can keep this island for the future generations, you know? So give us a share, give us a like if you like what we're doing, and if you want to donate, be free to do it and help us and give us a donation. That would be great. That would be awesome. And that's it, man. Like, thank you so much for the interview. Thank you so much for your time, and I think we're gonna see each other at the end of the month, I think.
Yeah, awesome, man. Hope to see